Hello children, I hope everyone are safe and sound. In the earlier video, we have seen the lesson January Nights by Premchand, a short story. It is a story about a poor peasant, a poor farmer who was struggling very hard to earn for his livelihood. So we have seen that his name is Halku and his wife Munni. So both of them were very poor, because in the first scene we see that Halku was asking his wife to give away those money, the money that they have saved for a blanket, 3 rupees. It was only a 3 rupees to give it away to the landlord, because Halku took a piece of land to cultivate. And in those days, landlords were very cruel. They just want their rent amount, even if the farmers, if the crop, even if they are in loss and crop doesn't come up properly, they have to give the money to landlord. So this was how landlord used to treat poor farmers. So we have seen that without blanket, Halku went to the field in the month of January, and he was feeling very cold here. So we have seen that along with his dog, along with his friend dog Jabra. So he was collecting few dry leaves to put on a fire and feel the warmth of the fire and sleep. So now let us continue reading the lesson. Under the tree it was a pitch dark. The bitter wind blew, buffeting the leaves, and drops of dew dripped from the branches. Jabra had found a bone, and he was chewing on it. Halku set his fire down on the ground and began to gather the leaves. In a little while he had a great heap. His hands were frozen, his bare feet numb, but he piled up a regular mountain of the leaves, and by making a fire out of them, he burned away the cold. In a little while, the fire was burning branches. In the flickering light, the immense trees of the grove looked as though they were carrying the vast darkness on their head. Halku sat before the fire and let it warm him. After a while, he took off his shawl. Then he spread out both feet, as though challenging the cold to do its worst. Victorious over the immense power of the winter, he could not repress his pride in his triumph. So he said to Jabra, "Well, Jabra, you are not cold now, are you?" Jabra barked as though to say, "How could I feel cold now?" So in that fire, both of them were feeling warm, and Halku took off his shawl and spread his feet like he was challenging the cold. "Now come and hit me," as if he was challenging the cold. He was nicely sitting near the fire and getting the heat of the fire. In that heat, they were feeling warm, he and Jabra. So the leaves were all burned up. Darkness covered the orchard again. Under the ashes, a few embers smoldered, and when a gust of wind blew over them, they stirred up briefly, then flickered out again. Halku sat by the warm ashes, humming a tune. The fire had warmed him through, but as the cold began to spread, he felt drowsy. Jabra gave a loud bark and ran towards the field. Halku realized that this meant a pack of wild animals had probably broken into the field. They might be blue buck. They must be grazing. He began to hear the sound of nibbling. He thought, "No, with Jabra around, no animals can get into the field. He'd rip it to shreds. I must have been mistaken. Now there's no sound at all." He shouted, "Jabra, Jabra." Jabra went on barking and did not come to him. Then began Then again there was the sound of munching and crunching in the field. He could not have been mistaken this time. It really hurt. It really hurt to think of getting up from where he was. It was so comfortable there. It seemed intolerable to go to the field. It seemed intolerable to go to the field in this cold and chase after animals. He didn't stir. So when Jabra was shouting, he felt that he knew that there are wild animals in the field, and but Halku was feeling very, what do you say? He was not feeling like getting up from where he is sitting and go into the field and chase the animals. How he was so, what do you say? He was feeling very sleepy and his body was not supporting him. We have seen that he is heavy in the first scene. So he didn't get up and go into the field. He shouted, "Hello, hello, hello." Jabra started barking again. There were animals eating his field just when the crop was ready. What a fine crop it was, and these cursed animals were destroying it. With a firm resolve, he got up and took a few steps. But suddenly, a gust of wind pierced him with a sting like a scorpion, such that he went back and sat again by the extinguished fire and stirred up the ashes to warm his chilled body. Halku went on sitting peacefully near the warm ashes. His drowsiness held him motionless as though with ropes. Wrapped in his shawl, he fell asleep on the warmed ground near the ashes. When he woke in the morning, the sun was high and Muni was saying, "Do you think you are going to sleep all day? You came out here and had a fine time while the whole field was being flattened." Halku got up and said, then you just come from the field. Yes, the whole field's ruined, and you could sleep like that. Why did you bother to put up the shelter anyway? Halku sought an excuse. I nearly died and just managed to get through the night, and you worry about your crop. Then the two of them walked to the edge of their land. He looked. The whole field had been trampled. Muni's face was shadowed with grief, but Halku was content. Muni said, "Now you'll have to hire yourself out to earn some money to pay off the rent and taxes." With a contented smile, Halku said, "But I won't have to sleep nights out here in the cold." So here we see that in the morning when he woke up, his wife Muni came and he was poking him. Yes, what are you thinking about yourself? You are sleeping like this. The whole field is got trampled by the wild animals, and nicely you are sleeping. The crop is damaged. The crop was just about to was ready to harvest, and in that time he lost everything because that night he was feeling very cold and he was like about to die. And so with the Halku was not at all bothered about the crop now, because that was a terrible night for him because of that cold. So when Muni said that he has to hire himself anywhere so that to earn money to pay off the rent and taxes, but Halku was, he was feeling very sort of satisfaction, or very sort of like now he doesn't have to go to the field in the nights and spend those January nights in the field with that cold. So some way or the other, Halku was seeing the positive side. Yes, that he doesn't have to go to the field and sleep in the cold. So that's how people used to think. Yes, people think if we have nothing to do, if nothing is there in our hands, we cannot help it out. So we just let it go. Even Halku also here, because of that cold and that hard work and all, he was feeling very sad. But whatever is happening, because of that cold, he just let it go, and he was not feeling sad also. He was feeling happy that he doesn't have to go and spend those cold nights in the field. So I want all the children to read this lesson till the end and understand the lesson.